Hey guys, so another video tutorial on what do you call it? Uh, Gunshot animation in Photoshop. I did this a year ago. I think maybe like a year ago, or maybe I think about uh, give or take. Uh, I think about 11 months or 11 months to 10 months ago. This was like an assignment that I gave to my previous students from my last year on how to create animations, and the gunshot animation sequence was actually then further enhanced to create different gunshot animation sequences. So this is sort of like a tutorial that I really wanted to upload last year, but I couldn't. So hope you guys like it. So this is another tutorial on Photoshop, and this is basically how you animate a gunshot sequence. So I've created these different gunshot sequences, and now I'm merging them together using different uh, different techniques. So in this technique, I actually drew all these drawings on a whiteboard in my school where I did them, and I created different sequences, and then I just traced over them. So it was like all in my head how the gun will shoot, and I've added some click effects, like extra click effects on them. So this is how the gunshot animation sequence will look like, and I've split all the images onto different layers, or created just one layer and then copied and then changed some sequences or some detail characteristics. Now I'm putting all these layers on top of each other so that I can see exactly where I need to actually change some key aspects or the movements and rotations of the gun. I mind you, when I actually did this keyframing sequence, I did not use a reference initially, except for the image of the gun. And all these things are based on my own observation of how the fingers and how the hands move about, how you actually click open the safety lock on a gun. And this is an imaginary gun, so it's not like a detailed description of an actual gun that exists. Maybe it might be similar to the Beretta gun. I'm also figuring out the rotations of the gun and how the gun changes in dimensions. And also I've written down numbers on the gun sequencing, and also there are some bullet shells that fall off, and then there is the direction of the bullet moving out. So here I've scaled it so that it fits to a particular direction, and you can see that the movement of the bullets is slightly off. The bullet moves up and down, so I'm going to correct this in the last 4 or 5 layers or the frames. So this is, I'm turning on off all the layers to see if the sequencing is completely the right place. And I'm also moving the positioning of the gun based on the base of the uh, gun handle, so that the gun handle is actually moving in a fulcrum, or it has like a center point. Again, the bullet movement is slightly off. I'm still not convinced with the movement of the bullet, so I'm going to figure out how to actually move the bullet. In the final animation which I did make, I'll try to merge that piece together with this one to see what the results are. It also has the movement of the bullet slightly lowered. So I did fix this in the animation when I was making the animation sequence, and you can see that I've created this shell movement sequence in which I'm actually showing some vibration on the sides. You can see the 3 arc lines around, in and around the shells. In this you can also have like some kind of like afterburn or after smoke effect. I'm also added some puffy smoke effect in a couple of these frames. So as far as movement is concerned, that's all fixed. Let's just look at the bullet, and yeah, so the bullet movement slightly is off over here, and let's see if we can figure this thing out before we render it out. So here I'm just again moving some layers up and down just to match them with the animation. And again, this video was about I think maybe 14 or 15 minutes long, so I sped it up one time, meaning like 100%, so that the animation is more not the animation, the tutorial video is reduced in size, otherwise it would have been a very long video. Thank you. And my breakfast is here, so I'm going to have my breakfast while we talk and discuss the movements of the gun sequence. So the gun sequence is an animation project that I did for explaining how to shoot weapons and how to fire weapons. And now I'm going to create the animation layer comp. So it's another option of turning on off each individual layer and creating different layer versions with sequences. You can always select and see in every layer composition one of the one of the layers is turned on and the other one is turned off. You can also have one or more than one or two layers turned on and off depending on the situation. So what I was talking about was that this project was and I gave this as an assignment to my students in the last year. Now I'm actually trying to quickly click and play and see that if the movements are smooth enough, and if I'm not missing any layer, or if I've misplaced or reassigned or the hierarchy of the layer numbering, I've changed it. So everything looks okay. I'm also thinking about maybe like adding this click effect as if it appears like in like a poof or something, like an invisible ink thing. So now this looks like click and bang, click and bang, click and bang. So this looks like a nice little sequence of how to shoot a gun. You can always find tutorials like this. I really had fun when I did this as a tutorial video, and also when I showed the kids this assignment. And after that I got into a lot of trouble on social media from SJW warriors, social justice warriors, because they said I'm trying to teach kids violence and this and that. And during that time there were like a couple of incidents that were happening worldwide. There were a couple of shootouts. There was a shootout in France. A newspaper company was shot at, I think Charlie Hebdo. And before that there was a massive shooting in Florida, and there were like a couple of shootings in some film cinemas in America, another film cinema in America. So based on those things, I think it was not the right time to actually post videos on my students learning how to create like gunshot effects. And I gave a couple of my students some other guns that I wanted them to animate, and this was basically purely an animation assignment. It brought the kids really towards animation and how beautiful animations can be and how interesting it can be. So now I've added all these in the animation sequence layer, and I've turned on and off all the layers, and I've added some timing sequences, mix and match. Like in some places I've added like a 2 second, 0.2 second lag. In some frames I've added like a 0.1 second lag. In some places I've added 0.5 seconds of lag, depending on how I want the animation to look like. And I'm running like a rough run of how the gunshot sequence looks like, and I'm checking to see if there is any delays or no delays or things like that. It's always a step-by-step process. You figure out how the gunshot sequence will look like and how fast, how slow the gun movements are, figuring out how to tweak them. So that's pretty much it. And I think the gun bullet movement is also slightly bit straightened now. I think I might have fixed it out how the gun movement is moving and the shells are moving. Now I'm going to create a copy or a duplicate of it and maybe see if it is working. Yeah, so I'm doing this click thing and it's doing double shots, but I don't want the first frame. I want sequences from one frame sequence and duplicating that a couple of times. So duplicating a couple of sequences, you can just go down and click and drag all the sequences that you want copied, and then press the down key and click and drag to the new file, and it creates duplicates. So this is like my drawing, or the gunshot being shot 1 2 3 4 5, bang 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 bang. And now I'm going to go and export this video. Also, this is always a good idea that you install QuickTime Player and also K-Lite codec before you actually start exporting, because when you export videos, it's always a good idea to export it as a compressed version of an AVI or an MP4 rather than a high resolution version, because it will take a lot of space on your hard disks.